Whether you're a seasoned veteran and you know all of these spawn, loot spots, and how to take PvP, or if you're just starting out on Arena Breakout Infinite, then do I have the tips for you. And do me a favor, if you learned something new, or you just like the content in general, do me a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. But anyways, onto the video. One of the most obvious features in this game are Scavs. These Scavs are similar and different to those in Escape from Tarkov, Delta Force Hawk Ops, and many other extraction-based games. But what sets the Scavs apart from this game to others is that there's a lot of mechanics that the Scavs in Arena Breakout have than others. So the first essential tip is going to be all surrounding Scavs in Arena Breakout. So there's a couple different mechanics when it comes to Scavs in Arena Breakout. One of the first and most obvious mechanic is that the movement of the Scavs in this game are a little bit different. Now, not only being able to run, Scavs can also jump over objects or just jump in general. Usually jumping in these types of games is that it's an indication that it's a player rather than a Scav. Scavs in this game can jump like they're Michael Jordan, going for a slam dunk on you. So make sure to think twice if you really think it's a Scav or not before you give away your position. Now, besides running and jumping, Scavs have some other movement mechanics. One of those mechanics being leaning. Again, typically leaning is for players, leaning, peeking corners, and whatnot. Scavs in this game are notorious for leaning, so it's easy to get mistaken if it's a Scav or a player. Now, besides leaning, Scavs will also open and sometimes close doors, and they can also crouch and duck your shots for whatever reason. Now, staying on the topic of Scavs, I want to talk a little bit about the bosses in this game. It's quite easy to identify if there's a boss or not. The biggest tell if there's a boss or not is the voice line prompt. The who are you voice prompt, again that voice prompt is who are you, is typically the voice line prompt that Ajax gives on farm. Now on farm, Ajax can spawn at a variety of points, one of the spawn points being in this video where he spawns near these warehouses. Some other spawn points are both at motel and stables. If he spawns at other areas besides this, I'm not really sure, as I haven't gotten any of these spawns, mainly just stables, motel, and this spot. When it comes to the boss Ajax's loot spawns, he typically has two loot spawns that are always constant. The first one being his large green camping backpack, and the second one being the pocket knife, which is worth pretty much nothing, maybe about 10k. So if you're really desperate on money, make sure to grab it. Then some other chances at loot is that sometimes he'll be carrying around a modded out MP5, or other times he'll be running an AK-74U. Now I highly encourage you to make sure to check the mags of what he's carrying, as typically the ammo you get from it is usually pretty good. Now besides that, he has the chance of spawning some pretty high tier keys that are worth a ton of money. But most of the time, if your luck is terrible like me, you'll end up getting nothing. Now when it actually comes to fighting the boss, at least for Ajax, he's really not that hard to take out. You're more worried about the elite soldiers he gets spawned with, as they are typically the ones that are going to end up one-tapping you. Usually they're running AKMs and AK-74Us, depending on what mode you are doing and what tier ammo they have. For the normal mode, most of his elite soldiers are going to have PP ammo, so that's definitely something to take into account when you're trying to fight the boss. And sometimes you'll find a kitted out AKM or AK-74U, so I highly encourage you again to check mags and just to loot up as much as you can from these elites and boss. The next boss I want to talk about is DOS on Valley, which is located at the villa again on Valley. For some reason, for the amount of raids I've done on Valley through all the zones, I have yet to ever find the boss, but this is what you should expect from him. So the boss himself will either use an AKS with a 60 round magazine with 545 BP rounds, or he will end up spawning with a kitted out MP5 with a 30 round magazine carrying 9x19 AP63 rounds. Or even sometimes he'll be running a kitted out F2000, and he will typically be having a secondary golden Desert Eagle. Again, this is all random generated, so it's pretty self-explanatory that you'll really never know what he has until you actually find him. But they made it extremely easy on how to identify him. He'll be wearing sunglasses, a brown business suit, and a gold accented chest rig. Now besides the Armory boss that we currently have in the game, DOS can summon the most amount of bounty cards in his home spawn at the beach villa. So your best course of action is to try to funnel them through small corridors or small hallways. His token is a handmade gold, and what I mean by tokens, it'll be like a kind of like a medallion. For example, Ajax's medallion, or whatever you want to call it, is his pocket knife. Now moving away from the bosses, I'll have a whole in-depth guide on the boss on Armory, but I want to talk about some of the kits you want to run if you're low on money, just starting out, or you're trying to do some 0 to hero challenges. If you're opening the game for the very first time, the game will actually give you a couple free kits that you can use, which is honestly really nice. These kits are usually pretty good if you're going into normals, or if you're even wanting to try out the lockdown zone. One thing I really want you to keep in mind when you're making all these kits, or trying to deck out a weapon and a ton of attachments, the attachments in this game don't really matter as much. What really matters is what type of ammo you're actually running. Say your weapon is worth 300k, take for example if you're running a fully decked out M110, but you're running the cheapest ammo. It doesn't matter how much muzzle velocity you actually have, you're most likely not going to penetrate anything that an enemy is wearing. So what I typically say to this is if you're running a weapon that is worth 300k or even even more, then your ammo price should typically be half of that. So the type of ammo you should be buying should also be worth like 150k or even 100k. That's typically going to be your MA81 and so on. Like I said, if you're willing to risk a weapon worth 300k, then you should also be willing to risk ammo that is on par. Now, if you're really struggling on money or you want to make a quick buck, here are two builds that I highly recommend, but they're going to kind of be 0 to hero challenges, so keep that in mind. First, we're going to be looking at the Mosin. It's going to be around 43,000. That price depends on what the scope price is for that day. Now again, if you're tight on money, the ammo you want to be running is the T46M. It's going to provide you with level 3 penetration with a 33 base penetration. This is a really solid option if you find yourself going into the normal zone, and again, you're really tight on money trying to make a quick buck from nothing essentially, with it also being about $100 per round. But keep in mind, if anybody's wearing anything above tier 3, you're going to be struggling for a bit. Then once you have it unlocked, and if you're still kind of tight on money, then I'll say you can start looking at the LPS ammo. Do keep in mind, however, that the ammo is going to run you 800 per round, but with that you do get level 4 penetration with a base 42 pen. How I see it, pretty much if you see anyone in normals, it's going to be one headshot, unless for whatever reason they're using an Iron Man helmet. Now the next weapon, what I'm pretty known for in this game actually, is going to be the double barrel shotgun. It can be any shotgun you really want. Again, if you're really low on money, slap on the double barrel shotgun, as it's only going to be about 6k. And with that, you have a couple options to run. You have lead slugs. They're going to give you level 1 penetration, so they're alright, but they're not the best. You also have rip slugs. Those have 0 penetration. However, with rip slugs, your main goal is going to be shooting the legs or the arms. Now last but not least, you're going to have the AP slugs, which is going to be your best bet. It's going to be giving you level 3 penetration, however at a price of 900 per shot. So again, if you're really tight on money, I definitely recommend those kits. Now if you're wanting to test out Armory and you need that 100k equipment value to enter, then you should probably look at this build. This build is going to be on the cheaper side when trying to enter Armory, at least for the weapon part. So first things first, we're going to be running the MP5, and the ammo that we're going to have selected is the AP63. And typically, if you can identify what type of armor the enemy player is wearing, then you probably want to go for leg meta, so just unloading into the legs. But getting started with the sight, it's up to you what type of sight or optic you want to run, and it's all really preference. Then for the receiver, we're going to be running the default universal receiver, as you really don't need to mess with it as much. Then we're going to be running the 50 round mag, just to increase that value just a little bit more. Then running the standard issue, as you don't really need to swap it. We're going to swap to the MP5 industrial handguard, so we have the ability to slap on a blue laser, and who doesn't like blue? We're going to slap on the MP5 threaded muzzle adapter, so that we have the ability to run a suppressor. Now suppressors in this game are typically pretty good, but you could definitely run without a suppressor. It's all preference. But for this build, for the suppressor we're going to be running is the 9x19 lightweight suppressor. After deciding what suppressor you're going to be running, or if you want to run any muzzle in general, we're going to be slapping on the 4.1 modular lock rail, so we can put on a B25 ERK grip. Now the ERK grip is optional. How I see it, gives the best handling and its price is very good, so that we have a better chance of getting into Armory. But you can definitely swap out the ERK grip with any other grip if you really wanted to try to cut down on the price a little bit more. Again, we want this weapon to at least be 100k. So when we actually come to complete assembly and having the rest of the attachments stock, our assembly cost is actually going to total up to about 112,000. Now again, as you can see, the ERK is pretty expensive, so it's up to you if you want to swap it. Now before we go, I just want to briefly talk about how to actually identify players and how to identify player scavs. Now, for whatever reason, if you're having the trouble to identify if the person you're looking at is a scav or a player, there's really one thing to keep in mind. Players will typically be wearing like a green multi-camo like pajamas or whatever you want to call them. Basically what I just popped up on screen. It's the green pants with the multi-cam type of sweatshirt thing or whatever you want to call it. And that's how you'll typically identify whether it's a player or a scav. Now, when it comes to actually identifying if it's a player scav or not, there's one big tell that if it's a player scav or not. If the scav has 2 weapons, meaning if the scav is holding a weapon in their hands and then they have a weapon on their back, then that's an easy sign that it's actually a player scav. Scavs in this game will not have 2 weapons at all. And for whatever reason, what I've noticed is that player scavs will sometimes have a red bandana, so that can also be a tell. Usually if it's a red bandana scav towards the center of the map on farm, so near motel and the broken bridge, scavs there typically don't have a red bandana. But that's pretty much it when it comes to my essential tips for Arena Breakout Infinite. And again, if you found this video useful at all, or you just like my content in general, do me a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. But anyways, onto this fail on Armory. He's right here.
The enemy's on the move. You.
Fucking scav? God damn, that scav took so many.
I'm gonna see what I can loot.
Yeah. Heal, pack your mag.
Yeah.
Dude, I need to know.
Okay, bro. How many shots? Oh, it's some fucking Chinese player.
What?
It's some fucking
No
Chinese player.
way.
That's what I'm saying, bro. I had AP 6.3s on the guy, so I can only imagine. Duck, what did you have? M61 too?
Bro, there's
Is
no
that gun
fucking
7.62?
way.
An AEK is what I got killed by with
What, an
AP
M4?
ammo.
Bro, this guy had the level 6 fucking helmet. Are you kidding me?
I blacked out his abdomen and I kept unloading to his abdomen and he didn't die. Okay.
It's the same guy that kills me.